And we should be live. Welcome. A little bit late, but it seems like I always am on these streams, to a historic weekend of racing coverage. Now, of course, unfortunately, I can't be there. The fans can't be there. Very limited media, very limited access. But for the first time ever, the Cup Series and the IndyCar Series all together under one roof. At the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the first race for Roger Penske and his IndyCar Series at his new track, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway that he's purchased. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy times. So in this stream, we're just going to pretty much talk a little bit about practice, talk about the weekend in general, answer some of your questions, and we're also going to talk about some of the current events because particularly Nathan Brown, IndyCar rider, motorsports rider, has been on the ground at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, talked to Roger Penske and Jimmie Johnson. We've got some big news to talk about that is potentially coming down the line. I had hoped to have some more people in this stream with me to talk, but that will be further on down the line. It's kind of hard at noon or 1:30 on a Friday to get people in when they're not employed by you. So let's go straight to it, which is the results for practice, the top 6 at the GMR GP at Indy. No real surprise. Only 2 drivers have ever won this race, Will Power and Simon Pagenaud. And Will Power was at the top of the one single practice session the IndyCar Series is going to get before qualifications. But I think the surprise is P2. And maybe it's not a surprise because I think a lot of people were very excited to see what Santino Ferrucci was doing last year. But Santino Ferrucci kind of proving some of the doubters wrong, I think, by putting it P2 provisionally right now in the practice session. New colors on that car as well. Sponsor Mauser this weekend for Santino Ferrucci. But it's good to see the Dale Coyne team P2 at least to start out. But of course, Will Power still about 2/10 up on the entire field. Marcus Ericsson once again trying to prove that he belongs at Chip Ganassi Racing. Didn't have a great race at Texas, but third in the practice right now. And Pato O'Ward, again, we saw him very fast in practice at Texas Motor Speedway. Didn't translate to the race, but again, just kind of have to see how things go in qualifying. Scott Dixon, the points leader, the most recent winner at Texas Motor Speedway. You look out for Dixon. The guy seems to always be on it, and he kind of got screwed last year, got passed by Simon Pagenaud at the very late closing stages of the race. I think he's probably going to be very, very strong. And then Ryan Hunter-Reay, kind of been snake bit at this racetrack, and certainly was snake bit at Texas when his car didn't even start and didn't even get off the grid, but he still drove to an 8th place finish. So it's an interesting top 6. I think qualifying is going to be absolutely crazy. They're talking about the Goodyear and Firestone rubber not really melding very well together. So that's going to be something we're going to have to kind of keep an eye on. So let's go to, let me see if I can turn off the right thing. There we go. And I'm going to fade the music down. Oh, my video is frozen. Why is my video frozen? There we go. My video is no longer frozen. So that's a good thing. So, okay. I guess we'll start by talking about why this weekend is significant. And I said on Twitter that I think it's really important that this isn't the only one of these events, because especially at Indianapolis, I really am going to advocate hard for this becoming the tradition. The GP moving to the 4th of July weekend on the Brickyard weekend, away from the month of May. I've said this before. I said this way back when they announced this. I thought that the GP definitely served a purpose at one point in the month of May, I don't think it serves that purpose anymore. I think that the momentum that was needed in 2014 to get the month of May started probably isn't there anymore. I think the Indy 500 can be a standalone event again. But the Brickyard right now is kind of in a worse position, really, than what the Indianapolis 500 ever was. So I think having the double header take place on Brickyard weekend, I think it works out well for everybody. I think IndyCar gets another kind of marquee event, one that they get on television. They get all that attention of the NASCAR people. You get that crossover appeal. Hopefully, next year maybe we're talking about Jimmie Johnson running in this event in the IndyCar race. We'll talk about that later. But I think I think this is overall a really positive thing for both the series. And when that's the other thing. Really this is a move I think that's fan friendly, and that's I think why Roger Penske did this. Is because ultimately circumstances prevented fans from being at this thing rather than the actual interest level, obviously. So I think next year, if they could do it with fans, I think it'll be even more successful. And I think this is the future right now. But we'll see. I mean, I think why not? Unless there's some major catastrophe that happens this weekend, I don't see why not keep it this way. Penske stoinks, yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of stoinks going on right now. I'll have to pull up some of those Indy Star articles and we'll take a look at them. You missed practice. Okay, so practice was interesting. I guess we'll talk about practice right now because there are some things that I think we need to talk about. It looks like there's some uncertainty. It looks like the tires are going to be wearing quite a bit. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, usually when you have big tire fall off, especially when you've got an option tire like we see on the road courses where you got the red softer tire and the black harder tire, plus a big fall off with both of those tires, both of those types of tires, I think you're going to see a really exciting race. But one thing I think we noticed in practice, especially when everybody was on black tires and were essentially doing race runs, we saw a big spread in the field. We saw guys that ordinarily aren't up front, and that's no disrespect to them, but you saw like Connor Daly was running second, Max Chilton was up there, Rinus VeeKay was up there. Once the red tires came on and people started doing quality sims, that's when you started seeing a little bit more of the Penske Ganassi's up there. But across the race distance, it looks like it may be a much more competitive race than maybe we're anticipating, and maybe we've come to expect from the Grand Prix of Indianapolis. Now again, like I said in the opening, only two drivers have ever won this race, two teams. Arrow McLaren SP won the inaugural race with Simon Pagenaud, and then Pagenaud and Power have essentially alternated each year winning this race. So it would be actually unique if we got a winner who didn't come from Schmidt or Penske or Will Power or Simon Pagenaud, but I wouldn't bet against it. I wouldn't bet against it right now. We saw Oliver Askew up there again. Pato O'Ward, he ended up finishing up in the top. Santino Ferrucci, again, I said this in the opening, but if you're just joining, Santino Ferrucci was second in practice, and I think in a lot of ways, many of us were kind of skeptical. Well, what's he going to do without Michael Cannon, who's moved to Scott Dixon's car away from the 19 car at Dale Coyne Racing? So you say, okay, what's going to happen there? Is Santino Ferrucci going to have the same pace that he had last year? Looks like he did. The other thing is, involving Santino Ferrucci, we saw one incident in practice. I don't think we have a replay of it yet. I guess I could look on the Twitter, but I haven't seen a replay of it yet. It was on Gold, obviously, but I don't think many people subscribe to Gold. So if you don't have Gold, you didn't see it. Santino Ferrucci was on a hot lap, and Ryan Hunter-Reay was weaving back and forth on the back straightaway, which we call the Holman straightaway because it's literally Holman Boulevard inside of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And Hunter-Reay was weaving back and forth. He was coming out of the pits. Santino thought Hunter-Reay was going to let him through. He didn't. Hunter-Reay cuts across the front of Santino. They both spin out. But no issue. Neither of the cars were damaged. But Santino Ferrucci got a 5-minute penalty, stop and go for that, for avoidable contact, which I thought was a bit rich, considering that Ryan Hunter-Reay even admitted that it was his fault. So I guess we're probably gonna have to talk about this a couple times during the weekend. But Mr. Keith says they could have sold some tickets this weekend, space everyone out at least 6 feet. Yeah. Originally, the plan was to do 25% capacity. They were going to be pretty. I mean, from what I understand, and this is all public information. I think Doug Bowles was talking about this. Is that they were going to do people spaced out 6 feet in the stands, and then even more so, they were going to section off each individual row. They could have sold tickets to this. They really could have. I think it came down to the fact that the mayor kept Indianapolis in like the third or fourth phase of reopening. So that's just, I mean, unfortunately, that's the way the cookie crumbled. I hope it's not that way for the Indianapolis 500. But again, as I've kind of talked about a couple times, man. Dick Trickle said this on the IndyCar Twitter. So we'll go grab that video real quick for you guys. But I'll just keep talking about fans a little bit while I'm kind of ranting while I'm kind of looking this up. Again, and this is the thing, and I don't want to jinx anything, but I'm going to Road America in a week. And as far as I'm aware, there's not... there's no capacity limit there. Here's the replay, so I'll try to get that up. But there's no capacity limit there, so it's just. And I know they're different. They're different. Essentially different countries these days. The states have so many different rules and regulations. You almost have to treat the different states like different countries. But yeah, it's just kind of, it's weird. It's such a weird dichotomy to see how some states have handled this and how some states haven't, and which racetrack. Because again, I went to a dirt race the other day, and we're gonna have a noise here in a second. I went to a dirt race, and if you'd gone into a coma and woken up, you wouldn't have even been able to tell there was a pandemic going on. So just the whole thing is just very weird right now. It's a weird place to be living. Let's see. Yeah, and see, people are mentioning in the chat that they're going to Indianapolis Raceway Park tonight. Yeah, there's an ARCA race that's having, I think, 50% capacity at least. It'll probably be more. Just generally speaking, how that goes. Different cities, but the same country. Well, kind of. Technically, it's in Speedway, but not in Indy. But it is in Marion County. That's the problem. It isn't in Indianapolis, but it is in Indianapolis. Meaning it's under the... I think this is how it works. Because the mayor isn't the mayor of Indianapolis. He's the mayor of Marion County, I think. I haven't taken my government course at Franklin Community High School in a while, so I apologize if I'm getting that wrong. But I mean, put it this way. The mayor, oh God, I can't remember his name. Mayor Hogsted or something, whatever his name is. The Speedway falls under that jurisdiction. So that's just how it, unfortunately that's how it is. And I mean, I hate it for everybody involved, but again, I ultimately the Speedway has to, there's a couple of things. The Speedway, first of all, took $100 million of tax money in a loan, but it was still $100 million of tax money from the government, right? So, they're going to be a little bit beholden to what the government wants, and that's just going to be how it is. But also, I'm sure that, Roger Penske doesn't want to be adversarial openly with the governor. That would be, that's not a very good PR move, and certainly not one that's good for business. Let me see if I can Santucci. Add source. Let's see if I wish I could mute this. It's gonna just play unless. Oh wait, I can just mute it here before it comes in. Aha! Streamlabs is working. I know how to do it now. So is this it? Why isn't this coming up? I didn't put a file in there. That's why. I was like, oh wow, what a cool source. Why isn't this source working? Here we go. Okay. So this is the incident with Santino Ferrucci and Ryan Hunter-Reay. So Ryan Hunter-Reay weaving back and forth. Santucci sends it in there. And Ryan Hunter-Reay gets El Spuno. Did I set that to repeat? I hope I did. I don't think I did, though. Let me see. Yeah, loop. Okay, so let's look at this one more time. There's Hunter-Reay. He's just come out of the pits, waiting, and Santino doesn't really know what he's doing. Santino's on a hot lap here, sends it in there, and you know, again, if race control just saw that little last bit, maybe I could understand that they thought it was Ferrucci's fault. Maybe they thought he was impatient. I don't think that warranted a 5-minute penalty. But again, you'll have to be, you're going to have to be the guy who tells me, or you guys, the stream. I mean, what do you think? Is 5 minutes, a 5-minute stop and hold in practice worthy of this? I don't know. It's interesting. While this is playing, we got 269 people watching right now. Thank you guys so much for showing up. I appreciate that. Actually, while this is still playing, I'm going to look up some of these articles that have been coming out today because they are very interesting. Very, very interesting. There's a lot of talk. I mean, Nathan Brown, IndyStar, been doing a great job. He's a good guy. I've talked to him a couple times, and good journalist. New this year because Jim Aiello had to be moved to the Colts beat. And let's see if I can bring some of this up here. Wow, I've got 6 free articles left, guys. Even though, fun fact, if you open the IndyStar articles in an incognito tab, it will always refresh your free articles. Just fun fact there. Let me see if I can find this. Oh God, I got to go back to Nathan's thing here because he posted that article, and we'll open that up in private. Sorry, I'm using. Okay, why did that open in 2 different tabs? That's annoying. There we go. Okay. Let me see if I can bring this up on the stream. Will IndyStar ever get rid of the paywall? No, I highly doubt it. I really dislike Ferrucci, but that is complete BS that he got a penalty. Yeah, pretty much. When is the race? It's tomorrow at noon! A noon start! So great. It's so great. Even though that probably means Xfinity's going to get a better TV rating because it's going to be later in the day and everybody's going to meme me for being all noony about everything. Okay, let's get the browser source going here. Let's see if I can get that. Okay, let me see. Oh, not a browser source. I need a window source. No, go away. No, I don't want to remove Santucci. Cancel. I'm still figuring out the stream stuff, guys. I'm so sorry. Let's see. I actually, eventually I'm going to have transitions on this stream. I might be able to do it this weekend. But I've kind of been looking up and doing some reading. And I'm going to try to see if I can continue to increase the quality. Okay. Because there's some really interesting things that have come out. Okay, which Microsoft Edge is this going to be? Why are there like 15 Microsoft Edges? Which is the incognito one? I might just have to... Yeah, I might just have to do a window capture. Okay, we'll do a window capture. Or just a display capture. Okay. I think that's... Oh, yeah. No, that's it. Okay, Santucci gone. So here is the first article, which says, Roger Penske personally championing Ferrari potential return to IndyCar. And I want to show you some of these quotes. I encourage you to go read this article yourself, obviously. But these are kind of the interesting quotes right here, which Roger says, I've been personally championing alongside Jay Fry, developing a process with Ferrari. I had a call with them last week. That is the important information right there. So they have talked. Have they made a decision? The answer is not yet, but they're definitely interested in coming. There's also another interesting quote here down at the bottom, which I saw. Let me see if I can find it. Which also says, I should say, that they've been to Dallara and they have the information that they need. And Roger specifically mentions that they are high-level images. So if you'll remember, I don't remember who, I don't know what the hell that is. If you'll remember, a lot of the naysayers about this Penske IndyCar thing have said, number one, they haven't talked, and number two, Ferrari hasn't got any information on IndyCar or what it would take to have IndyCar or to do an IndyCar program. This article debunks that, and it's kind of what I was thinking was going to happen. Is that I think, again, I don't want to sound like I was like telling them what to do, but I remember saying like IndyCar had absolutely had to make a play for Ferrari. There was no choice. They had to try. They had to make an effort. And I thought Roger Penske was not going to pass this opportunity up. And it's pretty clear that they are going to do everything in their power to get them. Within reason. I don't think they're going to try to get rid of, they're going to do anything to piss off Honda or Chevy. But this right here, this is very, let's just keep in mind, let's remember how much did we hear about the Porsche thing, for example? How much did we really hear? They're going to the media and talking about this. Roger is. So that's very interesting. Another very interesting thing, and this may be really, really interesting. Jimmie Johnson, let me see if I can find it. Jimmie Johnson has not ruled out running the Indianapolis 500. So this is the quote. I'm going to keep a close eye on things with their safety on the ovals. It's dramatically increased this year with the windscreen they have. I've always wanted to do the 500, but I would have to do a lot of selling to my wife to get that hall pass. So I'm getting chills. I'm getting chills talking about this. Because, do you even realize if you'd even said, a year ago, that Jimmie Johnson would be open to the possibility of running the Indianapolis 500? He has always shut the door on this. His answer has always been, I would love to do it, but I can't. He's opened that door. Remember, and this is the thing. This is why I make videos about tweets that you see. When you see, Jenna Fryer make a video that make a tweet that says, Jimmy might be coming to, or Jimmy's open to running Iowa, or Iowa and Gateway. I even made this comparison at the time, which was Gateway is a 200 mile per hour oval, and I get it. It's a big step from 200 to 230. But if Jimmy was willing to run a 200 mile per hour oval months ago, we move forward, and we've gone from open to running the ovals to open to running the 500 in this short period of time. It's and by the way, all of you guys who don't like the aero screen, because I love you guys, but you're boomers, and you probably like NASCAR. If you didn't have the aero screen, you wouldn't get Jimmie Johnson. You wouldn't have him even on the road courses. But now you have the possibility. We are looking. Okay, so this is just this is the thing that I looked at this morning when all this information started coming out and going, holy crap, we have the possibility of having Fernando Alonso, Jimmie Johnson, and Ferrari-powered race cars in the Indianapolis 500. It's like combining it's like the 60s again. You've got all these Formula One teams, manufacturers. You've got NASCAR drivers, NASCAR champions, not just NASCAR champions. Sorry, I hit the mic. I didn't mute it, did I? No, I didn't. NASCAR champions, Formula One champions, IndyCar champions. It's crazy. Like, we need to appreciate, and this is crazy because this is happening in the middle of, like, the biggest happening in our entire lifetimes, you know? This is the kind of, like, setback. Like, COVID, could you imagine what this would have done to IndyCar a year ago? And yet instead of talking about how this is going to kill the sport, we're sitting here talking about Ferrari coming in, Jimmie Johnson coming in, you know, and there's still Fernando Alonso running the Indy 500. How crazy is that? You know, it's because I just look, because I remember, because not as many, you know, there are some younger people here. You look at the economic crash in 2008, and that was just doom and gloom. There was nothing good on the horizon there. And we may still have, you know, we do have an economic crash coming, let's put it that way. But I don't, again, I remember 2008, that whole era very clearly. That was post-merger too, so that was the year of the merger. So there was a lot of positive energy. A lot of people kind of felt the same way about the merger that they did about Roger Penske taking over. But, you know, 4 or 5 months down the line, it wasn't this glowing amount of positive news. This is a lot of positive news. So, and again, and this is the other thing, and I'm going to be gushing here a little bit, but you look at what Roger Penske has done just right now with the TV deals. Like, make no mistake, the Indy GP being on network NBC is in large part because they were able to make this deal with NASCAR and get all of those series together. NBC was like, oh, hell yeah, we're going to broadcast this on our network. And now he got Texas on NBC. He got one of the Road America races on NBC. Suddenly, you know, I complained so much about how the St. Petersburg race is never on network NBC. But here we are, you know, even though there's a massive 1 month gap in between the first and the second race, that's excusable, I suppose, because of COVID. But the three of the four races, the first races of the season, are going to be on network NBC. Like, if Roger Penske, and we're talking about Jimmie Johnson running the Indy 500, he's at least going to run it. He's driving an IndyCar in like 4 days. He's going to be in an IndyCar in a race within the next 12 months, at least. You know, we're talking about Ferrari. I mean, if Roger Penske is not getting an A+ right now, how are we not giving him an A+? You know? It's crazy. Oh, so we're talking about, so I see Zach talking about Top Gun Racing trying to do 3 races for 2020. So that's very interesting because we've been talking about, it's kind of gone back and forth with Top Gun Racing. So they announced that they're going to run the Indy 500 in iRacing, of all things, with R.C. Anderson. I actually raced against R.C. in the Top Gun car in my virtual Indy 500 with Elite IndyCar. R.C. ran up at the front most of the day. Not that that's a huge, like, you know, indication of how he's going to do in the real life 500. But so we thought, you know, and these are the kind of Indy 500 entries that I always kind of go scratch my head and go, ugh. It's like Grace Autosport. Remember Grace Autosport? I do. That was vaporware. So you kind of think, oh, this might be vaporware. But what I'm looking at with Top Gun is, and they even mentioned in the most recent Racer article that came out about them, is that they are looking, so the team owner's like, we don't want to partner with I think it's Gary Trout, who used to run a couple of IndyCar programs in the 90s. And he said that they don't want to necessarily partner with another team. They want to do their own thing. But they might have to partner with a team this year, and they want a newer car. So I think one of the few teams that actually I can mostly confirm that have brand new cars is Carlin Racing. And if they're going to do 3 races, it would make sense that it would be with Carlin Racing. Let's think about this for a second. The 31 car for Carlin Racing has not been in either of the comeback races. They were at St. Pete, but obviously didn't run that race for obvious reasons. I would say if they have money that for the 500, assuming there isn't a second Carlin car already lined up, they would then become a third Carlin car. But I think at the very least, because they're looking at running the Harvest GP and St. Pete as well, I think why not say that Top Gun goes and buys the second Carlin car, because R.C. Anderson has run with them as recently as last year. There's some experience there. There's some chemistry there, I would imagine. It would make sense. It would make sense, I think. So, let's see. Oops, we lost the camera. We'll bring the camera back. Well, you're not a boomer if you don't like the NASCAR playoffs. 322 people watching, but only 69 likes. Let's get some more likes going. Come on, guys. Tara says, sorry, joined in late. Yeah, no problem. Don't worry. There's plenty of streams coming this week. This is just the first one. We've got another stream coming at the end of today at 7 p.m., I think. We're going to be wrapping up both IndyCar and Xfinity. I'm going to have to find a way to watch Xfinity because I don't have the track pass yet. I don't know why they put both of the practice sessions behind the paywall, but whatever. It's kind of weird. So let's open up to the chat here the last 20, 30 minutes of the stream, and I'll just kind of answer your guys' questions. We'll talk about it. What I guess I will do, since there's some more people who have come in, we're gonna put up the top 6 again. We're gonna move up the music a little bit, and we're just gonna go over what happened in practice real quick. Will Power, no real surprise. Only 2 drivers have won at the Grand Prix of Indianapolis, and the other is Simon Pagenaud. He was not in the top 6, but again, he wasn't really anywhere last year and still managed to win the race. The real surprise, I think, even though he's 2/10 behind Will Power, is Santino Ferrucci. New livery for that car this weekend. Ferrucci, again, we kind of were talking a lot about Santino and in his struggles or potential struggles this year with a new engineer, Michael Cannon, leaving and going over to Scott Dixon's car. But Ferrucci showed some pace, and that's good for him. Marcus Ericsson in 3rd. I think Marcus Ericsson, again, he wasn't very impressive at Texas, but I think he's going to be impressive across the bulk of the season. I think once he gets comfortable at Ganassi, I think he's going to be really fast. Pato O'Ward, remember, we saw him very fast in practice in Texas, didn't translate over to the race, but regardless, he knocks it home 4th in the first and only practice before qualifying. Scott Dixon, points leader, winner at Texas, finished 2nd in this race last year. He's got something to prove, and I think he will prove it. If the smart money is on a driver, I think the smart money is always on Scott Dixon. P6, Ryan Hunter-Reay, rounding out that top 6. He's always fast at the GP of Indy, but it seems to be snake bitten at this race in particular, and he is 6th right now as we sit in practice. Again, Ryan Hunter-Reay had a bad race at Texas, or at least a bad start to Texas. He did actually make it back up when he made his lap back and actually got to 8th position. But that's your top 6 or your practice top 6 right now. Of course, qualifying may be a little bit different. So we did have a super chat from Taurus, who says, has 2020 ever had a bigger mix of good and bad news for IndyCar? Well, if the 500 gets canceled, I think that's the baddest news of the bad. But I think most of it has been positive really. I mean, there have been obviously some horrible things that have happened from a sport perspective, of course. But yeah, it's an interesting dichotomy. I don't know if it would be the biggest. I swear, 2008 was tough. But yeah, I think it's been. It's so weird to say. I think it's been a pretty good year for IndyCar so far. That's what I gotta say. Joseph Newgarden. Yeah, let me see if I can bring that up. Actually, people are asking for the full times. I haven't even looked at those yet. I guess we can try to bring those up. I think Nathan Brown actually posted that. So we'll bring that in here as the chat continues to roll in. Let me see if I can answer some chat questions while we're doing this. Yeah, we'll try to show you Joseph Newgarden's times here. 2021, Alonso, Johnson, and Ferrari at Indy together, certainly a possibility, and I wouldn't have been able to believe that here in the last, considering again so much has happened in the world that we're still kind of talking positively at all. Is kind of crazy. This should be the results, unless I dragged up the wrong thing. I don't think I did, though. So we're going to move that down. Oh, actually, that's right where it needs to be, somehow. I think I'm still going to drag it underneath. Let's see. Yeah, right there. So Joseph Newgarden was 12th. Oliver Askew was actually really impressive, even though he ended up 12th. I think his fastest time wasn't in quali trim. So I think that's going to be something to keep in mind towards the end, towards race day. I think some of these guys are probably going to go, there's going to be comers and goers. Spencer Pigot was the other one I thought was really impressive. He's in a one-off, or not a one-off, but he's doing like 2 or 3 races this year, including the Indy 500 for Ray Hall, and he's the fastest Ray Hall car. Got a super chat from Brett. Who says, entry list for the 500, ? Could bronze badges happen? So entry list right now, we're in anywhere between, I think, 33 and 36 cars. I would probably go further towards the 34 or 35. I don't think it's going to get to 36, but I think it's going to. I think we're going to have at least one bump. We're definitely going to have a full field. It's just going to kind of depend on which cars get confirmed and which don't. But, yeah, I think we're going to have a decent enough field. Yeah, you look at towards the bottom of the field, James Hinchcliffe, part-timer, Dalton Kellett, part-timer, Sage Karam, part-timer. Shout out to the Driver Reinbold team. We were actually doing some content with them. Unfortunately, they didn't get to go at St. Pete, which was we actually had Sage explain the aero screen, and he was really good. I'm really disappointed that the audio didn't record for that, because Sage really did a good job explaining it, and it would have been a good video, but whatever. But it's good to see Driver Reinbold. This is actually technically their first non-Indy 500 race since 2013, I believe. So big shout out to that team. Glad to see them back. Yeah, it's weird. Here's the thing about the tire. I would disregard the tire selection, because I think the tire indicator, I think, only applies to the last tire that they were on. So if they set their fastest lap on a red tire, for example, and then they went back out on the black tire, it would show that they went out and set that time on the black tire. Or it would show the black tire as being on timing and scoring. It's whatever they cross the checkered flag with. So I don't think, I would not trust that tire indicator until qualifying. Practice session was fascinating. Who's the Fast Six? I don't know. I don't know who the Fast Six is going to be, because the other thing everybody's talking about is the Goodyear and Firestone rubber. How's that going to be compatible, or is it going to be compatible? Of course, they do race at Texas with the trucks and Indy cars most of the time, and it's usually not a problem there. But and they also, I think, do it at Gateway, if I'm not mistaken. So, but you never know. You never know. It's going to just kind of depend what compound Goodyear brought and what compound Firestone brought, and if they're going to be compatible. But I guess it's kind of technically a tire war weekend, even though there's not actually an active tire war. 100% Random says, can we talk about wide Danica? That was a 3 a.m. thing. I was writing some emails way too late at night, and I was just kind of looking at some memes online to try to get my energy back, and I kind of came across this "Why Putin" meme. I was like, I know of a video of Danica stalking around, and I thought it was funny. Oh, what did Danica do to Ryan Briscoe? Actually, it was what Ryan Briscoe did to Danica. It was in the 2008 Indy 500, and Ryan Briscoe came out of the pits and hit Danica, and that's why Danica was stomping down the pits towards Ryan Briscoe. She didn't actually get there, by the way. She got stopped by Charles in charge. Anything wrong with Rossi this week, this session? No, I don't think so. Rossi is a slow starter. This is something that we don't talk about enough. But Rossi very, very often is not very fast in practice, and suddenly he's there in qualifying. So I would hazard a guess. That we will see Alexander Rossi in the Fast Six this afternoon. Randall Hall says Penske sweeps the weekend with Power, Cindric, and Blaney. That's a good. You know what? The one I would swap is Keselowski for Blaney, even though Blaney's on a real hot streak right now in the Cup Series. I would say Keselowski generally is better at Indianapolis, but you're right, Penske. And that would be, boy. if could you hold on a second? I gotta get the webcam back out. Could you imagine if Penske, because and nothing against Jenna Fryer, but you know what the Jenna Fryer tweet is gonna be if Penske wins all 3 races on the first race that Penske owns the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That would be funny. Logan James says, I'm actually worried about Rossi. He just doesn't seem himself lately. I mean, again, we're basing this off of one race where he was qualified in the top 10 and, had an electrical issue that took him out. I mean, if you watched the race, even when he was a lap down, he was as fast as the rest of the cars, and he was still the old Rossi. So to me, I think that I'm not worried about Rossi. I'm not worried about it. Let's see. There was Ward is going to be a solid driver in the series. Yeah, I think we knew that after last year. Definitely knew it after last year. But Blaney's on a hot streak of wrecking people. He is. That is very true. That is very true. Any more wide memes on the way? I don't know. I think there's a few more. I think Danica stomped down a pit lane one time at Michigan too. So I maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do wide Danica too. I don't know. I'll have to go find that footage. I think it was at Michigan 2006. I think it was a race that didn't even get on TV, which is weird because I think it got bumped off of TV for some reason. But it was one of the last Michigan races where Danica got angry and stomped around. Wide Kimball taking out Hildebrand on the final lap of the 2011 Indy 500. Lotus Driver asks, will fans be able to attend Indy 500 qualifying? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine because, I don't want to get too in detail on this, but, I reach out from time to time to try to find out what's going on, and I'm never told what's going on. So I try to get that information for you guys. Try to get it for myself, to be honest with you, but never get an answer. Could Oliver Askew be a threat for the Fast Six? I think absolutely. I think Askew's going to surprise some people. I mean, again, I like this pace, and this is the thing. I don't want to just kiss up too much here, but his Texas drive was really impressive. The fact that he was on the lead lap in the top 10, only rookie to finish, stayed out of trouble, didn't wreck. That was impressive. That was a tough race to start your IndyCar career on, and he did it. Rosenquist looking to redeem himself after Texas, looking strong in practice. Yeah, I think Felix is going to have a. I think Felix had again, it was a mistake. It was a rookie mistake, but it was a mistake. And we do know that Chip doesn't like drivers who crash, especially when they drive that 10 car. But I think for the most part. And I think Felix qualified on the pole last year for this racetrack, so he knows how to go fast here. Wide Tracy versus Bourdais. Oh God, we've really started the wide memes, haven't we? Didn't Rossi make up 3 laps at Texas? Yeah, I mean, most of them were wave arounds, but, he didn't physically unlap himself, but he was passing cars. So I think that this worry that Rossi's going to be slow, I think, I don't believe it. Ferrucci crashing Ryan Hunter-Ray. We've already seen this. I'll bring it up again if you guys want to see it. This was the one kind of major incident in practice, and it wasn't particularly major. But this is what happened, if you guys have already seen it. Can Penske fix races like in the 2008 movie Speed Racer? Technically, because IndyCar and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway are privately held, you could fix races and have it be legal. By the way, I found something interesting here. If you look down here, wait till we see the inside of the turn. But there's DieHard sponsorship on the inside of that corner. Yeah, right there. So we got some Sears/Kmart sponsorship. What the hell? Freaking, where'd Sears Holding Company find the money to sponsor an IndyCar corner? But there you go. There you go. Wide chip riding on mopeds. Ooh, that's an interest. That would be a spicy meat. Joshua says, "Isn't there an IMSA race at Daytona this weekend?" There is. There is an IMSA race at Daytona this weekend. And when I found out I wasn't going to be able to cover the IndyCar NASCAR doubleheader, I reached out to IMSA to try to get media credentials. I mean, I already have the hard card, obviously, but I mean, obviously there's restrictions. So I tried to get in there. I reached out to them and said, hey, I would be willing to go down there and cover that event if you guys will have me. IMSA was very gracious and answered my email, which was nice. They ultimately had to make a decision to just have local media cover it, and it is what it is. I'm not mad at IMSA or anything. I mean, they got to do what they got to do. Lotus Driver says Kmart still exists. Yeah, if you followed my Twitter, you would have seen that I went to a Kmart literally this week in Amboy, New Jersey. I can't remember where it is, but yeah. And yeah, that's interesting. Tom Anderson points out that Sears DieHard did sponsor Penske. So Penske and Penske had auto centers in Kmart stores. Fun fact. That was the auto centers in Kmart stores were Penske auto centers. We do have a super chat from Kevin that says DieHard was sold off by Sears with Craftsman. Okay, so DieHard is owned by Lowe's or something, isn't it now? Interesting. My dad has a Penske branded engine timing light from the 70s that came from Sears. Well, there you go. Yeah, that's right, because I actually bought a DieHard shirt in Kmart a while ago. You've probably seen it. It says still the best. I think I was wearing it in one of the videos where I made fun of plate racing. But that came from a Kmart store, part of their DieHard selection, and it was actually of Mark Donohue's 1972 winning McLaren, which I thought was cool. DieHard is owned by Advanced Auto Parts. Okay, so Advanced Auto Parts, they sponsor the IndyCar radio network, or at least did at one point, so there's a connection right there. You watch the F1 practice sessions? I watched some of them. I didn't. I was obviously up at 3 a.m. making a Danica meme, so I kind of slept through most of it. I did watch one of them on DVR. It's great to have F1 back. I'll just say that. I'm interested to see what happens. It seems like it's going to rain, so I'm a little bit excited about that. But again, it's going to be an early morning the next couple of mornings. It's not going to quite be the Rolex 24 where I stay up all 24 hours for that. Which, by the way, I cannot wait. And it's a shame that I wasn't able to cover IMSA this weekend because I did want to. But Sears has less than 400 stores left. Kmart alone only has 30, and I think Sears is around that. So there's probably about 60 stores left. Draco Russo says, can you do 2000 to 2008 IRL content, the lost years? I could. It depends what you're looking for. I'm trying to think what I mean. I would be interested to hear you elaborate on that. I would be open to it, certainly. Believe it or not, I had my YouTube channel in 2008, and there's some content from that era that I made on here. Joe says I'm a goose. Hello, Joe. Opinion on Mercedes DAS, the DAS system, which is essentially the steering wheel not only moves left and right, but it moves forward and back. And when they pull the steering wheel back, the wheels actually go from toed in to toed out. Theoretically, that's a drag reduction method, but the way they get away with it, the loophole in the rule, is that because the steering motion, or the motion is done through the steering wheel of the steering rack, it's legal. Now, Red Bull has protested this, and they, in fact, they started protesting it like an hour ago. I mean, it was, but they've been saying they're going to do it since Australia. So we're going to find out if the FIA really does believe it's legal. But my personal opinion, I think it's cool. I love innovation. I wish there was more of it. Now we got a +1 for IRL content. Well, I'd be interested to hear what kind of IRL content you would like me to do. I mean, I guess the one thing that I could do is do kind of like a sequel to that Indy 500 video where I talk about the 2000 to 2009 500s that I haven't talked about. Boy, a retrospective of review of the early IRL era. Well, that would be a tough video to make, but I think Toyota IRL content. That's interesting. I mean, Toyota in IndyCar is just an interesting thing because Toyota, this is what a lot of people don't understand, is that Toyota was terrible their first few years in kart, and they really only became a juggernaut in like the last 3 or 4 years of their involvement in series. And then they started sucking again. That's when they left. Why does it have a wrench next to Joe's name? Because he's a mod. How do you feel about BMW being the lone survivor in DTM? I think, man, I don't know what. It sucks, but I think DTM needs to ditch the prototypes. I think because they're silhouette prototypes, essentially, is what they are. They're essentially DPI with fuller bodies, and to me, I mean, I'm a boomer, but I think DTM should be touring cars. I would like to see proper, real touring cars come back. Do I want to see them in the BTCC style where they're like the hot hatches? No. I'd like to see sedan touring cars. I'd like to see the big, German sedan cars racing rather than, prototypes or hot hatches. I would like to see full-bodied DTM cars, but we'll just have to see. How about the legacy of the split? Maybe 2004 to 2016 when IndyCar was seriously in trouble of falling apart due to lack of interest. Really threw All-American racers under the bus for their own shortcomings. Yeah, they did, and they also essentially killed the last American IndyCar chassis, the Eagle, which kind of sucks. For those who are not yet convinced of Roger Penske doing such a great job, as a suggestion, you may want to list those things he has done since he has begun the ownership. Yeah, I mean, think about it. I mean, I said this at the beginning. It is crazy how much positive things we're talking about when, in reality, we should be all doomers right now, but we're not. Do you think any other manufacturers will join IMSA in GTLM next year? Seems like it's just BMW and the Corvettes, and I think that's the way it's going to remain. I said this a year ago. You can go back and look at my channel. I don't remember exactly when I said it. I think it was when BMW pulled out of WEC. I think I said this. I see the same stink is smelling of GTLM that smelled of GT1 back in the day. And GT1 was awesome, just like GTLM is right now. But eventually, the cost got too high, manufacturers lost interest, and they either left the sport or they went to GT2. And then GT2 became GTLM, and we're seeing the cycle repeating. The same thing is eventually going to happen to GT3 racing, by the way, especially when the manufacturers start getting involved. So, I mean, involved in a state where they're like developing cars every year. And that probably will happen, by the way. I think a GT convergence, while sounds good on paper, it may hurt the privateers. We're just going to have to see. But I think GTE, GTLM, dying category, unfortunately. Dying category. Because unless you got a manufacturer that comes in that saves it, or Ferrari makes a bigger investment, which they very well could. Let's keep this in mind. Ferrari had a lot of budget just open up. But I don't know. Joe says, opinion on electric DTM cars? I don't think anybody would care about that. I mean, I think you'd probably get manufacturer interest, but the problem is it'd be the same as Formula E, where it's a who cares bowl, unfortunately. The one thing that I would say... Well, the one thing I will say about electric race cars is that they're going to have to beat a conventionally powered race car straight up. Because I think you've seen, for the most part, it's not totally happened, but I think race fans are a little more accepting of hybrid powered cars because they organically, in some ways, have beaten non-hybrid powered race cars. They've proven themselves to be a better combination, a better way to build the mousetrap. And I think the big holdup for a lot of racing fans with electric cars is the fact that they do not race against non-electric cars, and therefore they don't beat them, and therefore the technology is never proven. The technology is proven against other electric cars, but it's never proven against the best of the best. And so until a fully electric F1 car wins an F1 race and beats non-electric F1 cars, I don't think race fans are ever going to accept it. Can I watch IndyCar on YouTube? No, you can't. I wish you could, but I'm not in charge of making those decisions. AJ Allmendinger won next NASCAR Xfinity Practice 1. Wow, is that already over? Dang, we went longer than Xfinity practice. I know there's another session coming up. But yeah. Why is NBC Gold still expensive? You'll have to ask NBC that. I mean, honestly, this may not make me very many friends, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think they got to get rid of NBC Gold. I don't see, and again, so let me put it this way. I don't see how they have enough fans at $50 a pop to cover the cost of bringing all those trucks and personality and all those people that they hire. Now, maybe they're seeing data that I'm not seeing, and they think that they have enough revenue coming in from NBC Gold to fund all that. But quite honestly, I think it would be way better if you streamed it for free on YouTube and sold ads on it. But you could even stream it on the NBC YouTube channel. If you didn't want to stream it on the IndyCar channel, fine. Let NBC charge everything, but stream it for free on YouTube. I think it would benefit the series. I think it would benefit, quite honestly, it would benefit NBC's marketing way better. I think more people would be aware of the races. I think more people would be willing to find them. I think more young people would be willing and able to find the races on television and watch them if they knew things were happening. And if things were available on YouTube for everybody to watch, none of this geo-blocking crap, I think it would help the series a lot more. And again, if you need to cover the cost, sell some ad space on it. But I think you would be able to, I think the benefits would outweigh the negatives if the practices and even the qualifying that's not shown live was shown on NBC Sports Gold, or not NBC Sports, on YouTube rather than NBC Sports Gold. Or even Twitch. Put it on Twitch. Have Twitch pay you to put practice sessions on there for free. I don't know. GN says, Roger Penske is proving why he is the right owner for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with all the renovations done. Yes. I think I've seen the photos of the renovations, and some of them have been very impressive to me. Like the stuff outside of gate, or just inside of gate 1 when you're walking towards the turn 1 grandstands, really impressive. I thought they were cool. The 12,000 pit lane reporters in one broadcast is one of the things I despise the most, says Fatty. I wish there were IndyCar specific pit reporters. I'm missing Jan Beekes right now. I'm missing Jan Beekes. Kimoa says engage the reverse gear. Thanks for the €2, dude. I'm sure that's not the real Kimoa, but yeah, because Fred's coming back, we're gonna be getting all the Kimoa memes. We're gonna get all the orange memes. Gonna be some fun. Let's see. Yes, everybody sent some get well energy to Alex Zanardi. Completely agree. In fact, I should have put something on the stream. I'll do it for the 7 o'clock stream about Alex Zanardi because, yeah, I think he just underwent his second neurological surgery, and yeah, I think, man, I think we're all thinking of Alex Zanardi. I mean, he's one of the guys that was one of my heroes growing up. Sucks that more hardship has kind of befallen him. Forza Alex. So on that note, not a great note, but yeah. Does Xfinity crash in turn 1? I would say almost certainly. Almost certainly. So, I think that is going to do it right now. We have 338 people watching at 2:30 on a Friday. Thank you guys so much. We will see you in about 5 hours' time, about 4.5 hours, post IndyCar qualifying, to talk and break down Xfinity as well as IndyCar qualifying. Should be some fun. I'm actually going to finally get to see what Xfinity looks like on the IMS road course. Well, they're coming for me. Thank you. Appreciate it. Love living next to a firehouse. Great. But it's going to be cool to see Xfinity on the road course. So I'm excited to check that out. And yeah. Oh, we got a super chat right at the end. Does anyone think Brad Keselowski is mad at Roger since IMS said the wall didn't need to be fixed? Well, Brad Keselowski I don't think is going to be racing for Roger Penske next year, so he might be mad at him. He probably will be mad at him. So there you go. Yeah. All right, everybody. Good talking to you. Good seeing you. And we'll see you in the next video in about 4.5 hours.